Ya, sistemas de ecuaciones, vamos a resolver dos incógnitas, dos ecuaciones. Hay que aprender sustitución, igualación, reducción también con estos métodos. La solución vas a tener, mira estas ecuaciones. Duty y Ri son las variables, dos líneas en el plano donde se cruzan, es notable. Si son consistentes una solución encontrarás, pero si son paralelas nunca se encontrarán. Con el método de sustitución despejas una variable, la sustituyes en la otra y el problema es solucionable. Sistemas de ecuaciones, vamos a resolver dos incógnitas, dos ecuaciones. Hay que aprender sustitución, igualación, reducción también con estos métodos. La solución vas a tener, ahora con igualación despejas la misma incógnita. Igualas las dos ecuaciones y la solución está bonita. Si prefieres reducción, suma o resta con cuidado. Elimina una variable y el sistema es despejado. Pendiente o independiente, el sistema te dirá si hay infinitas soluciones o una sola habrá. Sistemas de ecuaciones, vamos a resolver dos incógnitas, dos ecuaciones. Hay que aprender sustitución, igualación, reducción también con estos métodos. La solución vas a tener. Paso 1, escribe las ecuaciones en forma estándar. Paso 2, elige un método, no es tan difícil. Sustituye, iguala o reduce con atención. Paso 4, encuentra X y Y, esa es la solución. Sistemas de ecuaciones, vamos a resolver dos incógnitas, dos ecuaciones. Hay que aprender sustitución, igualación, reducción también con estos métodos. La solución vas a tener. Sistemas de ecuaciones, vamos a resolver dos incógnitas, dos ecuaciones. Hay que aprender sustitución, igualación, reducción también con estos métodos. La solución vas a tener. Sistemas de ecuaciones, vamos a resolver dos incógnitas, dos ecuaciones. Hay que aprender sustitución, igualación, reducción también con estos métodos. La solución vas a tener.
What's good? What's good? Chicas Locas.
Hey, chica.
How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. And you?
Pretty good. Got no complaints.
Awesome. That's a good thing to hear. Shout out to the chat. Don't forget to hit that like button because it really does help. How was your day today?
My day was outstanding. I've got no complaints at all whatsoever.
Nice.
But I mean, what'd you think of the intro?
I loved it. It was so cool.
We're so gangster, right?
Right. Yeah. I was on another panel earlier tonight, and somebody said that to me. You're so gangster.
Oh, good. I take it as a compliment.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find, like, I'm restreaming, but I can't find the actual show, your page, which is kind of weird.
Let's see here. Let's put it.
Yeah, because I want to make sure I have that on the TV too.
I have it. Oh, did I accidentally delete it?
Well, it's streaming. We're streaming definitely on my.
Here it is.
So I know we're still live somewhere. I don't go.
figure it out.
For sure. Okay. No. Girl, hang on. Have you heard
Yeah.
from Bex?
No, not yet. But hopefully we'll see her up here at some point in time. But
Uh,
you and I've been and Bex have been talking through
mhm.
the years, and along with other people, that we'd like to have a panel just
Absolutely. I found
to.
you. Got you.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we had been talking about, actually, we have been having some really good conversations behind the scenes and on Discord. And I thought, well, we all thought collectively, let's take this over to YouTube, because there seems to be a lack of cohesion between women and good conversations. A lot of the panels are held by men. And so, yeah, this is why we're up here tonight.
hmm And hello to your channel as well.
Thank
I
you.
know throughout however long we're up here, we want to try to get some ideas about topics that people want to talk about.
Right.
What things interest you?
Okay.
Um,
Oh, hang on. Sorry, meant to mute you. Yes, absolutely. Because and it doesn't always have to be women issues, but just issues that have from a woman's perspective.
hmm Yeah, without a lot of too much chaos going on, but I mean, we also know that that's fun as well. So,
Absolutely, it's absolutely fun, but there comes a point when the chaos becomes too much, or it becomes actually negative and attackative. What up, Hood? So for sure, that's what I want to be able to achieve, is have good conversations that help build each other up and not necessarily tear each other down.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that going on.
For sure. Has it been happening a lot to you?
Um, yes and no, but I can't let myself get bothered by it. That's what I'm learning.
Mm. I know that we both have been experiencing some I don't know, what would you call them? Like attacks, or just me personally, I feel targeted by certain people. So I don't know what I call that, an attack, or what I would call that, but it's become unpleasant now at some places.
Well, it becomes an attack when people follow you around and constantly call you names.
Hmm.
Then that's when it becomes an attack. But it's okay. I've learned that if a person doesn't want to play uh, fair, not that life is fair, but I don't want to play anymore.
Mm.
Because there's nothing I can say. I can agree to disagree, and it's still not enough, and it keeps on going. So then it becomes a waste of my time.
I absolutely agree with you on that. Again, I think obviously there's some people, I've been on panels this week where we've had religious talks, and we are completely opposite ends when it comes to the religion. And we've been able to have disagreements, but respectfully. But then there comes another set of when you say people don't play fair, I think it's even more than that. Like, they're attackative. Like, they just see you and want to attack you. And like you say, they follow you around, that they make up lies about you. They twist the things around about you. They do backhanded devilish stuff to you. And it's more than they don't play fair. It's like they're just downright evil. I mean, maybe that's being a bit extreme about it, but sometimes people just have bad intentions, and I want to get away from those people and those communities that thrive off of that on a continuous basis.
I agree.
of that.
I agree. It becomes becomes too exhausting
It
to me,
does.
especially when I go out of my way to um to take the time to have the conversation and it still doesn't stop. Then I just don't know what else to do.
Do you feel like do you understand where your line is of I've done all I can do. It's time to walk away. Or are you someone that like, okay, I'm going to give a little bit more and just like sometimes, allow people just to take more from you than they should? Like, how strict are your boundaries when it comes to this type of behavior?
It varies. I mean, at
Mm,
this point, my boundaries um they run a little bit, like I have to put my guard up after a while because then it just becomes nonsensical to argue um, with somebody. What is the saying? Let's see here. Let's see here. Dang.
I think the metaverse, my experience here on the panels has definitely made me sit back and evaluate my boundaries and recognize what they are and stand firm in them and hold them. And I gotta tell you, like you say, it depends. Like some people I can let it go a little bit more, or perhaps their boundary is further out than perhaps somebody else's. But I think it is important to establish these and stick to them for your peace of mind and balance, for sure.
Absolutely. Like I wanted to look up some quotes here.
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead. I was just trying
yeah.
to fill up the
No,
air.
you're good. Yeah. Um, a fool thinks himself to be wise, but a wise man knows himself to be a fool.
Mhm.
William Shakespeare. Um, talk sense to a fool, and he calls you foolish.
Mm.
Euripides. Um, there are two fools in this world. One is the millionaire who thinks that by hoarding money, he can somehow accumulate real power. And the other is the penniless reformer who thinks that if only he can take the money from one class and give it to another, all the world's ills will be cured. We see that happen on here all the time. That argument.
Right.
Yeah. He who asks He who asks is a fool for 5 minutes, but he who does not ask remains a fool forever. Like I could go on and on
Right.
with these quotes, but um, when you were talking about evil earlier, um, there's a lot. We feel like there's a lot of that going on, which you know, evil is also a form of wickedness. So if we really wanted to look up even what the characteristics of someone who's wicked, there's a lot of that going on the internet, on these panel conversations. People straight wicked.
You know, you look at music and you look at the media and you can see how it can be wicked or it can do, it can bring about a certain energy. But once you think about it, YouTube is in that same category of media, entertainment, music. So it does make sense why it does run rapidly on here. This is just a wicked business. For whatever reason,
Hmm.
I have theories. Perhaps you have theories, but I've noticed that yes, it is very rapid on here.
Yeah, wickedness is the fact of being morally very wrong or bad. It is generally considered a synonym for evil or sinfulness. Among theologians and philosophers, it has the more specific meaning of a profound evil committed consciously and of free will. Wickedness can also be considered the quality of a state of being wicked. So, I know for me, for example, you really have to pay attention to what you're putting in your mind. And if you're putting too much of that those wicked panels or content or music or whatever, it's gonna affect the mind. And I had that happen to me last night. I had a horrible dream.
Oh no.
Yeah, it manifested itself into something really ugly in my subconscious mind. So that was a wake up call to me, like you're watching too much trash.
Absolutely. That wickedness is fed by certain the conflicts and everything, and that is what I'm personally trying to get away from. I do understand, like, that does sell, that does bring the entertainment. However, it also, like you say, it can manifest itself into other ways of having nightmares. It can make you angry. That anger can actually carry over into your real life. It's now affecting those that are around you, whether it be, your job, your personal relationships, whatever. So you have to really understand that boundary and understand what brings that out of you, because perhaps maybe something that like triggers me may not trigger another the same way. So it's important to understand these boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
But I know for me and you, we've talked about a certain individual who has just really, really been running rapid lately. And although I don't like that, and although I think very, very low and poor of this person, I understand that there was a lesson to be learned in it, but lesson learned, you can go away now. So I don't ever look at situations like, oh, this was so horrible, I can't believe, why me. I'll always take away things from a lesson, and but it's nothing more than that. It wasn't a divine lesson. It wasn't a divine teacher. It was none of that. It was wickedness.
Right. And it brought you a different type of awareness on how to approach the person, right? Like, pay them no mind. Don't feed don't add fuel to that flame, because they eventually will just keep on revealing themselves. I've been saying that for years. Let them do their thing. They're just going to eventually reveal themselves. And I need to stop worrying so much about what other people think about me, because I know who I am, and that's all that matters at the end of the day.
So I absolutely agree with you. And that's, for me, that's the part of where my ego's like, I'm not going to let these people talk to me like this, and I'm going to stand up for myself. And sometimes it's hard to walk away, not because your ego wants you to stay there, wants you to defend your name, but you're absolutely right. Like, I have learned to walk away. And I know, and anybody who's really kept up with our story knows, that it's the same person. But until you and I started talking about this behind closed doors, I actually thought I was the only person experiencing that from him.
Mm-mm.
And when you started talking about it, I realized, like, this isn't even personal. Like, this is just who he is. And I was glad that we talked about it, because it made me understand, or helped me to realize that I wasn't the only one going through this, because sometimes that sucks when you have that feeling.
Exactly. And even though we tried to have the conversation with that individual and gave him the time, the energy, and the attention, it still didn't stop. I watched it go on throughout the last couple days, and I just thought, see, I don't need to be messing around with any of that nonsense anymore.
No, that's why we discussed having a woman's panel and talking about issues that affect all people. But there are some things that affect women that aren't necessarily talked about, and especially on some of the panels that we happen to cruise around.
Hmm. Well, again, I think that it's good for us to have conversations about vocabulary, the
Mm.
vocabulary that we're using. And there we've seen on here that there are people that are that's their strength is their vocabulary. It's so vast, and
Uh,
um, and it's good for me because it takes me out of my comfort zone. I love languages, all sorts of different languages, and so when I hear these words being used, it's helping me to an exercise for my brain.
I agree. I always think, where did they learn these big words from? Like, we didn't talk like this when I was little. Like, how did they learn all of this? But I absolutely agree.
Well, I think it does have something to do with education. So these individuals that go on to these to have degrees and multiple degrees, that's the setting, right? Because they're constantly studying, they're having to write papers, they're having to do
Mm.
speeches and presentations, and then depending on what they're going to school for, their public speaking has to be strong.
Mm.
And in my profession, I don't need to have a vast vocabulary. So I enjoy hearing other people out here practicing that word lingo.
Mm. I know earlier when we were talking, you brought up the word feminism, and I had said to you, I really don't even know what that word means. I just know people accuse me of that a lot, but it doesn't even affect me. Like, I don't care. But you said, well, it's important to know what people are calling us. And I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. You're absolutely right. So can you tell me a little bit more about that word and what it really means and what it means to you? And
Okay.
should we be offended by this word, feminism?
So
Like,
I've been looking more into it too because I've that word has been used to me like it's an insult, and I'm thinking, why the hell
right.
would it be an insult? Let me look into this, right? Like, where's the confusion here?
Mm.
And it says feminism is the advocacy of women's rights based on the belief that women and men should have equal rights and opportunities. It's a theory that supports the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. Feminism encompasses a wide range of perspectives and goals, but at its core, it is about challenging gender inequality and striving for a more just and equitable world for all. So let me break this down a little bit more. Key aspects of feminism: equality. Feminism fundamentally believes in the equality of all genders, advocating for rights, equal rights, opportunities, and treatment. So, see, already it says believes in the equality of all genders.
Right. I was like, oh, yeah.
So, not even just male and female. So, we're living in a time when there's pronouns, right? So, this
Right.
is for all genders.
Correct.
Um, Challenging patriarchy, which is what I think that this is. I think this is what exactly we're having issues with on here.
What does that mean, the patriarchy? Like,
That the men are in charge.
ah,
Feminism critiques and seeks to dismantle patriarchal systems that perpetuate gender inequality and marginalize women. Advocating for women's rights. Feminism fights for women's rights in various areas, including political representation, economic equality, social justice, and reproductive rights.
mm,
Intersectionally, modern feminism acknowledges the complexities of gender identity and the ways in which intersects with other social categories like race, class, and sexuality. Feminism encompasses a variety of schools of thought, including liberal, radical, socialist, and intersectional feminism, each with its own approach to achieving gender equality. Like, I didn't even understand that there's here it's telling me that there's waves of feminism. First, second, third, fourth. It says the first wave of feminism focused on suffrage and legal rights for women, like, for example, the voting rights.
Mm-hmm.
Second,
Ability to have a bank account. I think women couldn't even have bank accounts for a long time.
yep. Second wave of feminism expanded to include issues of equality, reproductive rights, and challenging gender roles. The third wave embraced intersectionality, recognizing the diverse experiences of women and challenging the perceived limitations of previous waves. And then the fourth focuses on online activism, social media movements, and the Me Too movement, addressing issues like sexual harassment and consent. So even then, we were, I don't know if you've been called this, but I've been called a granny panty Me Too feminist.
Yes. Haven't we all?
Yeah. So,
well,
go ahead.
I mean, I'm not hearing anything I'm not really too much disagreeing with on this. So
No, not yet.
I can't understand why men would be like, oh my God, keep them in place. But I really, I'm not seeing anything bad so far.
Well, it says here some men feel threatened by feminism because it challenges their traditional roles, power structures, and notions of masculinity. This can lead to feelings of insecurity and perceived loss of privilege, which may trigger defensive reactions. Additionally, some men may misinterpret feminism as a hatred of men or a movement to punish them rather than a movement for gender equality. So see, do you hear the difference?
Yes. And I definitely can see that in people. Like, yes, they are being triggered and challenging their roles.
Yeah, men have traditionally enjoyed certain advantages and privileges in society, and feminism's focus on equality can be seen as a threat to these advantages.
Well, then no wonder you hate us.
Right. So some men strongly identify with traditional notions of masculinity, and feminism's challenges to those norms can lead to feelings of identity threat and insecurity. So that's what I'm seeing.
Absolutely.
When they throw that word out at me. Go ahead, sorry.
But I'm seeing men have already changed their roles. You can't change your role as a man, but then expect to still continue to want the privileges of that role. Fewer and fewer men. I mean, I'm starting to see more stay-at-home men, but they still want to be the one in charge.
Well, it even says here to protect their ego and self-image, some men may adopt exaggerated or showy behaviors and attitudes that are the opposite of their true feelings, such as displaying hyper masculine traits to compensate for feeling of insecurity. So I see that happening a lot. And I see that happening to you when you engage in these conversations. As do myself. I see that it's always come across to me that way as a sense of insecurity, because I'm not attacking their masculinity, but they feel like their response is obvious to me that that's what's going on.
Now that you mention it, I can understand, because I have never even thought about attacking anybody's masculinity ever. Like, that's never been like, I'm gonna get up there and prove him to be a little bitch. Like, that's never. I'm stating my my opinion, my stance, my position, and that's wild that makes them feel threatened about their masculinity. Wow. Self journey, men. Self journey.
So then I looked up the correct definition of misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
And misogyny is the dislike of or contempt for or ingrained prejudice against women.
Does this say what is this? Is this environmental? Is this taught? What causes that misogyny?
Well, I think it starts in these patriarchal systems that are set up, because it's a cultural thing as well. Because you still have places around the world that's the way things are set up, but here in the United States, for example, where you and I are at, it's not like that. And so there's a lot of confusion between the sexes, and it's creating, like, there's definitely an unbalance that's happening here, because again, like, men and women physically are not equal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an obvious thing.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But to me, I'll use this for an example. Like, if you are in the workspace somewhere
Mm-hmm.
where there's a man and a woman that have the same position, they do the same amount of work. It's not a physical position, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the man gets paid more for being a man. That doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
But so that doesn't apply to everything. But what you said earlier, the roles are a little bit different too, where there's the man stays at home and the woman is off making the money.
Absolutely. There are men, the drizzle drizzles. Have you heard of the drizzle drizzles?
No, girl, what's that?
The drizzle drizzles are men that want women. Like, if they want a woman to go out, if like a woman wants to date them, like, they should pay. The women should pay, because it costs money for them to get haircuts. It costs money for them to look good, to make the women look good. It costs money for them to smell good. So they feel like you should pay for that privilege. And that's kind of what they expect out of women before they date a woman. Like, they want to be paid to look nice on the date. Drizzle drizzles.
That's funny. Well, I mean, in all honesty, and what we're talking about, why not?
Right. Because if we talk about equality, there are women that expect that as well. So on the flip side, I can see, why men would expect that, but
you can't have it both ways, though. You can't bitch at somebody and tell them that they're a feminist, and we can't call them misogynists if that's somebody's situation. That would be being hypocritical.
Absolutely. But this is like, we have to get rid of the gender roles now if we're going to start bleeding into each other or fading into each other when it comes to on this level of materialism. Like, we have to start bleeding into each other and just do away with it altogether. The division is what I speak about.
Well, even that it listed that we are also have tried to fight for our reproductive rights. Like, that's such a big thing that's happening, particularly here in the United States. And that topic alone is messy, because it depends on how you feel about pro-life or whatever.
So, but that was so. Of course, there was Roe versus Wade, and women had the ability to choose life or not. And then now that's been reversed, and so now women can don't have that choice to choose life. Like, they have to continue with it full term. However, this is now causing women to lose their lives. And a matter of fact, here in Texas, I want to say within a week of each other, 2 women lost their lives because their babies still had heartbeats. And so the doctors and nurses couldn't terminate that life. But they also understood as the baby continued to live, it was, taking the mother's life, and there was nothing legally nobody could do. And both women ended up losing their life as well.
That's horrible.
Mm-hmm. And so today, actually, I saw an article popped up for the dad. Is the dad, one of the dads was a firefighter. He's finally speaking out for the first time. Like, there's nothing. Like, he was screaming at the doctors and nurses, like, help me, help my wife. But they couldn't do it because there was still a vital heartbeat happening.
See, I've never even heard of anything like that, but you see what I'm saying? Like, that's the fine line here that we're dealing with is situations like that. I mean, I know that I can't remember which state it was, but there was a woman that was in a very abusive relationship with her husband,
Mm-hmm.
and like he had almost killed her,
Mm.
because the abuse was so intense. And she kept on trying to divorce her husband, but in her state, it wasn't legal. And then she got pregnant again, and she wasn't allowed to leave him because of the pregnancy on top of that. So, like, these are the things that are, when it comes to the legal stuff, like I can see why people fight for that when that's their strength and they want to learn the legal language for rights. But I want to read this really quick. It's a little article. It's called Feminism versus Misandry.
Versus what?
Misandry.
What's
and
that?
It'll tell you, this will break it down to you. It says, recently the statement, I am a feminist, has become synonymous to the statement, I hate men.
Mm-hmm.
The mere idea of feminism is being misconstrued as the idea of hating men. It's become a widely spread belief that feminism represents the idea of switching the power structure so that men are on the bottom and women are on the top. However, this is a common misconception. The correct word choice for a man-hater is a misandrist. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, misandry is the hatred of, contempt for, or prejudice against men or boys. Misandry can manifest itself in numerous ways, including sexual discrimination, degeneration of men, violence against men, and sexual objectification of men. The belief in a matriarchal structure like this is the true ideology for those who wish to completely switch the power structure. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, feminism is a range of political movements, ideologies, and social movements that share a common goal to define, establish, and achieve political, economic, personal, and social equality of sexes. This includes seeking to establish educational and professional opportunities for women that are equal to those for men. This doesn't mean that feminists wish to switch the power structure, but instead that the ideology behind feminism is to disassemble the patriarchal structure. The patriarchal structure doesn't necessarily mean that a man will benefit from all situations. It's harmful to both men and women. It does refer to the idea that women should have husbands to take care of them, that women are overly emotional, and that women are the primary caretakers of a family. But it also refers to the idea that a man cannot show emotion, cannot be sexually assaulted or abused, and cannot take care of children as well as a woman can. The idea that this structure should be reversed is an idea of misandry. However, the idea that the patriarchal structure should be overturned is one of feminism. So, this is why I'm saying, like, it's really important to learn what these words are and just accurately
Absolutely.
use them.
But
like I don't feel like when I'm out here on the internet that I'm showing any type of hatred for men, but I do have questions for them because we don't always address things the same way, and I'm curious. And I am curious to see how these men interact on these panels because they predominantly are the ones that host them. But let's see here. I lost my train of thought there for a minute.
Well, go ahead. I'll wait. Or you?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So when you were saying that, I was thinking like people process things differently. Like even though I kind of say off the hand stuff, I'm a pretty serious by the book person. Like I show up for work on time. I make sure my work is complete. I don't, I take my job very serious. And that's not just this job, it's any job. I take my position very serious because I take pride in what I do. And sometimes I think, as you were talking, I was like, oh, you know what? Other people may not take that type of pride in it, whether it be the same position or the same circumstance. And when they see someone who does, they can become intimidated by that. So I wonder if this is not even a gender issue, but a deeper level or the secondary level issue behind it is that people are intimidated by the ways of the habits, the way people process, the way even down to the way they speak. And that's just a bigger issue. But everybody has important values. I don't understand. But does that make any sense?
It does. I mean, the hard part about all of this is that we're in such a different world than when these patriarchal systems were set up. You recently were on a panel where they were using that in terms of scripture, that the woman isn't to preach and the woman's place is to stay at home. Granted, they were trying to be funny about it and just trying to be funny. But we're not in those times anymore. And we're also in a technological age where it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman when you're behind a computer screen. So that's where that would come in with the aspect of both people should be paid the same amount for the job if they have the same amount of schooling. It changes if you have more experience, all of those things, but it shouldn't have anything to do with your gender.
Absolutely.
I'm just using that as an example.
The other day when I was having that conversation about the scripture, and like a lot of the men are like, you're just throwing logic out the window. You're just throwing logic out the window. And I do think that women, or I can speak for myself, that I am more of an emotional feeler, person that processes things. And sometimes I question if men even see value in that, or they just like, oh my God, that's useless. Get rid of it. Hang on one second.
Yeah, you're good. I'll go ahead and wait for you to take that so that I can respond back to you. But I'll say hello to the folks that are over there on your platform. Hey, everybody, how you're doing? Austin Murphy, Jalen, Logical Spark. Hope you're all doing well.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
You're good.
I forgot. What did I even ask? Oh, the logic versus emotion. And a lot of men, but I've had that conversation several times about, oh, you're just emotional. And, I've taken the personality test, and that is what I lead with. And so I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, how are you asking me to be different than what I am? Like, how do you ask a zebra not to have stripes? Like, logically, this doesn't even make sense to me that y'all keep trying to take that away from me, because logically it's not going to happen. It's the way I'm programmed. And Men really, from my experience, they don't see value in emotions.
Well, not online. That's for damn sure. You know, like that's where I get confused, because when I've watched how these men interact on here, that everything that they accuse women of, they're doing. So they're being emotional, and it's normal. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that's where the confusion comes in. Is you can't tell somebody to not be emotional, but you know, there's so many aspects to what I guess we would have to have a man up here and ask them, what is a woman to you? If you call another man, you're acting like a girl, or you're acting like a woman, or you're acting like a bitch, right? We hear a lot of that. What does that really mean to you? Because, for example, I have two of my cousins have toddlers right now. One is just turned a year old, and the other one is 10 months old. The little girl, one is a boy. Yeah, one is a boy, one is a girl. The little girl, you can see the difference in the intuition between the children. The little girl is very cautious about her walking and the things that she does, right? And if she falls down and she hits her head 1, 2, maybe 3 times, she's very, very cautious to not make that mistake. Now, her cousin, that's a little boy, he falls over and over again and hurts himself. And you're like, where's your intuition, dude? Don't do that again. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can see that there is a difference already between the genders, that, these boys, if I correct me if I'm wrong, but little boys are the ones that hurt themselves more. They'll break their arms.
Yep.
They're the ones that are wild, and they will do stupid shit. And the little girls are the ones that are more cautious. So even then, I don't know if that has something to do with being more left brain, more right brain. I'm really not sure. This would be something that Bex would be really good at, maybe helping us out with pointing that out. But even then, I can see the difference, is my point. And even the language too. The little girls generally speak before boys do, and girls mature faster than boys do. Like, for instance, when you're a teenager, the girls seem to be, let's say they're 17 years old or whatever, they're a little bit more mature than the boys are. It takes the boys a little bit longer to mature, is all I'm trying to say. Like, if you're with somebody who's 25 years old, don't expect them to be as responsible as a girl that's 25 years old. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I wish Bex was here, because I wonder, is there a point where they cross, where they become, at the same level?
I think they do. I think it balances out. Like when you're in your 30s with one another.
Okay.
In my experience, from what I've seen and what I've done in my relationships in the past, is I recognize the differences in my 20s in comparison to my boyfriend at the time, when he was at that age. And now, when at the age that I am now, we're good. We're even Steven.
One of my Bible study teachers, her and her husband just celebrated, I think they're in their 60s. I think it was like their 50s. It was one of the 50s. And no, she's 68, because they got married as a teenager. But she said that they have more fun now than they did when they first got married. That their relationship has strengthened so much that it's better now.
Oh, of course. That's why they have, like, for instance, in Asian cultures, when you turn 60 or when you turn 70, you have your second childhood.
You have to what?
They celebrate that when you turn 60 or when you turn 70, it's your second childhood.
Oh my gosh, that sounds fun.
Hell yeah, it's fun. They're fun parties. Yeah, they're fun parties, but it's, again, you do all the hard stuff when you were younger. You learn from your mistakes, and you've worked hard in your life. So, your second part of your life, you get to enjoy it, and it's your second childhood. This time you've got the wisdom.
And it's so funny because here in the Western culture, that's frowned upon. You're old. You shouldn't act like that. You're too old to act like that. Isn't that crazy?
Well, I say that shit too. I do, because you have higher expectations of people when it's convenient for you to have those expectations, because we see some people that are they're all sorts of ages here online, and you have higher expectations of the stupid shit that they do on here, but at the same time, you can see the maturity levels with people. People can be very petty on here. Like a playground. Yeah, it's like a playground.
You think it's because we're on a computer behind a keyboard and it would be different? I mean, do you think that some of these people act the way they act in real life as they do on here?
I would hope not. They would get knocked the fuck out if they did.
Right?
Yeah, daily. Like, if you really had somebody come up to you and talk to you, or put your personal information out there and slander you and all that, you'd get knocked the fuck out.
Oh yeah. That's that wickedness, though. That's that downright. But hey, there's some downright wicked people in real life. In absolutely, positively real life.
But I mean, these are the kind of conversations that I love. I'm so glad that I'm able to have with you, Cynthia. Because it drives me a little loony when I would love to have this conversation on another panel, and then not interested.
Well, thank you. And like I was saying earlier, I thought I was the only person having this experience. And then you sit back and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? Like, you know what I mean? And then it's like, why am I just constantly feeling attacked? And I feel like even when I disagree with somebody, and of course this doesn't apply to wicked people, but when I disagree with people, I'm even pretty decent about it and gracious about it. And it's just like, what? But then to hear your experience with it, and then to see others experience some of it to a certain levels or different ways from different people, I was like, okay, this has nothing to do with me. This has everything to do with somebody else. And now that we can get here and we can talk about these things, it does kind of help to lighten the load. And I hope it helps lighten the load for you as well.
Yeah, it's very humbling, because that's when I recognize that there's only so much I can only control myself. And if I know that I can change things on my end, that's all I can do. If the other person isn't going to do that, then that's when, like you asked me earlier, that's when the boundary is necessary, because I don't need to be doing that back and forth anymore, because I'm not benefiting from it. It just becomes an irritant to me. It's like a mosquito flying right there. You hear that high pitched noise right by your ear. That shit's annoying.
Right. Is there, some people will view as not engaging in, oh, you're just scared. You're just running from the truth. You just don't want to be caught. Wait, let me stop. You don't want to be caught out for being a liar. What? What I'm trying to say is how do you plan to get past that? Because again, that goes back to my ego. Like you could really trigger me. Like you could just catch me at a bad moment and I'll be like, fuck that shit, and that's what I don't want to do, because I need to stop in the moment and think, this really isn't worth it. Like, what do I care what this bum thinks of me?
Right. That's when you get tired of it, because you're like, there's nothing, obviously, that this other person is not, they're not gaining anything from me like you would hope that they would, because they continue the situation, right? It doesn't stop.
But see, it goes past the people actually doing the attack, because now you got the chatters. The chatters love to weigh in when you're being attacked, and so now you feel like, fuck y'all too. You know what I mean? You're like, you're about to catch some heat from me too. So it's a lot coming at you, and there are communities that I enjoy being at that comes out in me, and that's all that's there. And I was like, dang, I don't want to step away from it because I have so much fun. I enjoy certain people, definitely not all the people, but I have to choose me, and I have to choose my peace of mind and my balance first.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, this is what's really interesting about these panels is that I did it last week, right? I reviewed a panel and I spoke about it.
Mm-hmm.
I was reviewing it, and that person didn't like what I had to say about the review, but it was, and this is what we argue about, right? Is perception. It's my perception. It's my perception. Well, you twisted my words, right? That's all that back and forth that goes around. And again, I use the word humble because I was humbled by that whole experience, that there was nothing that I was ever, and still, there's nothing I'm going to be able to say to this individual that's going to stop the behavior, except for me stopping engaging with that person.
Oh.
That's the only solution that I've been able to come up with, because this isn't the first time I've dealt with this person. So shame on me for doing it again. And now this is that it's the same scenario. It's like, why do you keep on doing this shit, Yolanda?
Some very true, wise words. I mean, very, very great self-awareness and self-correction on your part, and inspiring, because you're absolutely right. I can't change this person. I can't change that they're earlier. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but like earlier when we were talking about those people that had those monkeys on their back, like I can't help them lighten their load. So I just got to step away from them, because if not, they're going to start throwing their load on me, and I don't want it.
That's exactly what I've experienced, is that I've been so stupid reaching out to somebody that I thought that I could help lighten their load, only for that monkey on their back to be so heavy that they don't want to let go of that monkey on their back. And they carry it around with them everywhere. And that's where we say that people got victim status issues.
They have what?
Victim status issues, right? They're so stuck in their head that they can't even see the logic in what a person has, what they have to offer to you in terms of logic.
I agree on logic. And I always say some people don't know how to receive love. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I don't even know if it can be corrected. But I do know that there are just some people that just don't know how to receive love at all. From a male, from a female, from a romantic way, from a friendship way, a sisterhood way, a mentorship way. They just don't know how to receive it. And that, I can't help you. Like, I'm not going to keep beating my head.
Right? It's because they've got that monkey on their back. They've got those demons that follow them around. They've got a lot of unresolved things that carry along with them, that shows them that we use this on these panels all the time. Stop projecting on me. And the fact that they can't see that that's what they're doing to you. Like, even what was it, last year or the year before, with everyone was saying that's you, and we were using that daily up in these chats. And it was true, though. It's the whole mirror thing that we experience with one another, and the other person doesn't see it, when it really is, it's a you problem. It's not a me problem. It's really been, how does one separate themselves from groupthink on these chats?
What?
From the hive-minded groupthink
Right.
or the toxic tribalism,
Right.
you know, that we see that goes on. And that's when I will use things like, you know, you're too old for this shit. But clearly, there's no age to that type of behavior. So I need to stop saying that shit to people. Because it doesn't matter how old you are. You could be fucking 15 years old and 75 on these panels still acting that way. So it has something to do with insecurities in oneself. I think that's what it has more to do with. And that people haven't been able to resolve.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Hmm.
You know what? Venus is right. She's totally, I don't care about the haters and you got to troll them. It's fun. It's taken me a while to get comfortable in that, to be able to do that shit.
Yeah. I'm not naturally a troller. Because sometimes, like, even people be like, oh my gosh, you went too hard. And I'm like,
But
what?
this far in, though, I mean, we all deserve it at some point in time.
What?
Getting trolled.
Oh, for sure. No, but I'm not good at trolling others. I'm not good at trolling back.
Yeah, you are.
Am I?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I think I am too. But it
say
comes
you
when
ain't.
we do it, they'll flat out call us a bitch for doing it. And potentially it is bitchy, but you know, some people deserve to be, myself included, you know, you get to call that shit out.
Listen, I just say what comes to my mind about them.
Good. That's a good way to be.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with y'all?
I guess I need to stop tiptoeing around that shit. I mean, people on these panels that I've joined before is like, you know, you need to be stronger in yourself and stop cupcakey.
You know, there's the fruits of the spirit in the Bible, which is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And like when I first, started studying the Bible, I thought about each of those traits and what I have, and which ones I lack at. And it's been like what, a 12-year journey. And I can say I pretty much have them all, but surprisingly, gentleness is the hardest one for me. It is so hard for me to show that fruit. And it's not that I don't want to be gentle. It's just like, what? I don't even think gentle. And that was so shocking to me because the self-control was easy. The joy, like all of that other stuff was so much easier than this gentleness. That is the hardest one for me.
Well, I think for me, the gentleness aspect comes from my profession. I work with animals.
Oh, I would love it.
So I have to really energetically, no joke, energetically, how I speak, how I move, how I touch an animal has everything to do with how productive and successful I will be at what I need to do with the animal. And so, go ahead.
I love that. And it's an animal, and that's easy. I mean, but the people are the hard ones to do that too, right?
Well, I mean, at this point, I've been working with animals for 25 years, and I would rather deal with the animals than with their owners, because I get a more positive reaction, successful reaction from the animal than I do with their owners. But I deal with abused animals, animals that are injured, elderly. I do dog grooming and cat grooming, and also work with different, like the injured animal. What do you call those things? You know, like if you rescue. Thank you, a rescue. So
love it.
Yeah, and I figured out, like, I apply that as well with people. And I had a really hard childhood. And, when I was younger, life wasn't easy. And I just wished so much that people would see me as a child, because
Mm.
you are to be seen and you are not to speak, and when I approach my nieces and my nephews, I make sure that they know that I see them,
Mm-hmm.
and I treat them like they exist and that they're a person and that they're there, and I have success with children interacting with them as well, and so that's how I try to interact with adults.
I love this story. I love it. Like Sarah McLachlan, I will remember you was playing in my head for that commercial. Like you out there saving them. And I grew up on a farm. I had horses. Horses and cows were my best friends. I groomed them. I took care of them. I loved them. I swear I felt their pain. And I totally understand when you say that energy that you bring to them. Like they can sense that you're honest. They can sense your intentions. They can sense that they're here to help. Even when I'm angry and not even angry at them, like they can sense that. And I I want to believe that people still have that sense, but I'm kind of convinced that sense is dulled in a lot of people from childhood trauma, from addictions of all sorts of kinds, drugs, alcohol, gambling, name it. Any addiction applies right now. Um, and that concerns me. That concerns me a lot. In this panels, this experience has made me suspicious of more and more people, which is weird because it like that energy's gone now.
Well, on here, all we can use is our intuition
Mm-hmm.
because we're not there in the physicality part aspect of a relationship with somebody.
Right.
So your intention online can be misconstrued. I try to be what I thought was being authentic, but people call me out that I'm not being authentic. And then I've
Mm.
also been accused of being passive aggressive or all sorts of different things. And again, these are good training sites, tools to have with this internet shit to really think about and listen back in your own voice and your own intonation. And there's times where I'm like, no, that absolutely was not what I was doing. But isn't it interesting that somebody would read into it? And then that's when I recognize it's them projecting their shit onto me.
Right. I'm offended when they say that to me or they have that position. I'm offended. And it's so like it took me a while to realize, oh, it's them. Like I was like, how dare they think this about me when I am being my truest self up here? Like they don't recognize it. That's absurd. And but then after a while, I was like, oh, it's them. Okay.
Well, another thing that I see happening on this internet shit, because people we can share our information, our personal information, our banking information with
What?
one another on here. And
Yes, you
that's
are.
something I think that is really important to have conversations, is to have a better awareness, think twice before somebody comes up on here and takes advantage of you, because there's a lot of that going on.
Oh, my listen, that is a heavy. Oh my gosh, girl, that could be a whole another show. I'm gonna write that down in my little book. Whole next show.
Mhm.
So for she says, why was I offended? I'm offended that they can't recognize real. I'm offended. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, I heard over on OTW's, what was it, last week when Gigi was up there?
Oh, that is exactly who I was thinking about.
Yeah. Like
That
that shit is like that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of people that are really good, kind people
mm-hmm.
that potentially can get taken advantage of
I know.
because they're already in a space in their life that you know that you can get taken advantage of out here.
So true. And that was heartbreaking. Let me tell you, I'm not sure if how big of um a feeler you are, but or energy. I assume some degree, based off of your work that I've seen in the past. But um her energy was very, very heavy. And it was immediate, it was spontaneous. Like the second she stepped on in there, and it was like, hey guys, and that just even having that heart of energy, regardless of what the energy is or what's causing it, that broke my heart. Like that, just knowing that she felt that broke my heart. And I'm thinking, who the fuck is making her feel this way? Because she is really heartbroken, and Venus is down there saying that Mad Mystic is still Angela and Gigi's paying for everything. Like, that breaks my heart. But there's wickedness on here. There's wickedness on here. And
well, that was a good conversation you guys had. Every single one of you had logic and wisdom to share with Gigi that day on that panel. She wasn't in a good place. Sounds like she has a lot of health problems. And even that, Cynthia, we're going to have a conversation about wellness.
Oh, writing it in my book.
Mm-hmm. And what trauma and unresolved things, the difference of how it affects the mind, which affects the body.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I have my own testimony for that subject about getting that monkey off my back, and it was weighing me down. When you and I were having the private conversation, I brought up the visual aid of The Grudge.
Yes. Oh, tell him, because I was like I can sit here and say heavy, but you painted a picture. I was like, damn, I can really see it now. Tell him.
Yeah. Well, like on The Grudge, that gal gets murdered, and her ghost follows around the people that attacked her and did that to her. But the part that scared the shit out of me on that damn movie was when he was rubbing his shoulder, right? He was like, golly, I just feel like my neck and my shoulders, they hurt so bad. And all of a sudden it shows her standing on his shoulders, and she has her arms wrapped around his neck. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, that's what a demon is. Mm-hmm. That shit will follow you around. Your past will follow you around. That's what, skeletons in your closet, how, having baggage, all of those sayings, that's what that means. And so right now, we'll use Gigi as the example, only because she made that conversation public, right, for us.
Right. And we're so respectful and have love for Gigi. We're not being mean to Gigi.
No, not at all. But I mean, we can see, as someone who's not even involved, that is a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Absolutely.
To be investing in a person, and hopefully this will help that other person that she helped out. But again, like, people create their novellas on here and share their lives, and we all hear about it because this is like a damn game of telephone.
Right.
So we can't help but, highlight it and use it as an example in the conversation. But, I heard that Gigi had to have emergency surgery, dental surgery, because she brought that up, that she was having issues with her mouth. And I did see that she ended up having to have surgery. So, she was upset and crying for that other person, and she was emotionally invested. And, you got to take care of yourself when you're that sick. The anxiety and the stress is not going to help your body heal if your mind and your heart and your body isn't aligned. And that's where we all have these conversations about faith and philosophy on these panels all the time. To each his own. Go ahead.
when you were talking with Gigi, I found it interesting that when you were speaking of trauma and unresolved trauma, is because she was saying that that the other person reminded her of her as a young child. And I wonder, perhaps, this is the wrong way we try to heal trauma. And there's even, proper ways, or be careful not to fall into these traps when you're trying to heal trauma, because there are people looking to take advantage of you. And as Venus is pointing out, she's being used, it's elder abuse. Gigi isn't a spring chicken, which is just even sadder. Like, why would you do that? Like, you are called to take care of the widows and the elderly.
Well, one thing I got to say for sure, like, I've found myself in areas lately having conversations with people that I wasn't expecting to, out of an invitation and stuff. But you will never find me getting invested in a platform where has anything to do with the law.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't need any legal means coming from my ass because I was a mod at somebody's platform.
Oh, gotcha.
Like, this is the awareness that I've built, and I think that it's important that I participated on this internet shit when I did, because if things are going to even move more forward with these devices, I'm glad that I'm practicing now on what to do and what not to do, because I guarantee you, like, for example, what we're seeing with these politics right now, right? They keep on talking to us about the Epstein list or the JFK files, or what's another one? The Martin Luther King, like, those are all, I mean, Donald Trump even said it himself. He was like, it's just a nothing burger, those files.
Right.
Right. Well, we know that shit, but I know in my intuition, anyway, my intuition is telling me that this is in preparation for censorship. They're giving you these topics now. They're throwing civilians these bones, right? Like, that was the promises for this last election, that they would be releasing those Epstein files, only for them to release the files that they were all blacked out, right? I laughed so hard when I saw that happen. But you know what? I remember when this all first started, and we were all curious about it. And at one point, I had the PDF files for it and everything. And for what? What am I going to do with that information? Only for it to be tracked back to me, right? And I don't need to be leaving a digital trail for no reason. And like, I'm seeing these cases that are happening of people being sent back to their countries and stuff, and were they really criminals? Were they really not? And I'm having a better, sharper awareness on what things I really want to talk about and listen to on this digital stuff, because no matter what you click, it's going to stay there permanently on this dead digital file that they have set up for your data or whatever the hell.
You bring up a very good point there, Yolanda. I'm definitely going to take heed to that. And it also makes me think the importance of making sure to have a human touch, a human balance, a human anything on a digital world. And some may not see value in that now, but that there is truly value in that, to as much as you can. Were we going to open the panel? Wasn't sure yet.
If you'd like to, go ahead, drop the link.
Okay, cool. I see a lot of people coming in. Make sure to hit the like. I'm actually, Yolanda and I are both streaming the services, so please make sure to hit the like button. And I'm going to drop the link to her chat. So after you hit the like at one, you can go hit the like at another. And then I'm gonna drop the link.
Well, let me go ahead and read this out. Zephyr says, I kind of do the opposite. I dox myself all the time and wander and all sorts of shit. Not recommended for everyone, though, for sure. I might just be lucky, maybe resilient too, but someone needs to witness this crap. For real, because, you know, I see some of this crazy shit that people like to do on their channels, their own channels. They like to act, they like to manifest, they like to talk about political things, all sorts of different shit, right? This is what's really interesting about what we're experiencing right now. I don't think is going to be like this. Instinctively, I think things are really going to change. I mean, look at how much YouTube's changed their guidelines these last 3 years.
Right. Guidelines, payments out. Like I keep telling everybody, they're like, we're the value. This is where people go to. And a lot of you know, talk to anybody, whether it be this community, another community. A lot of people spend more time on YouTube than they do watching TV. And that's kind of dangerous for mainstream media. I'm even going to take it conspiracy route, side street. The people who are trying to control the masses, if you can't control what people talk about on YouTube, you know, what are you going to do? Are you going to, you know, shaking up and spark? So the changes are being made to YouTube to limit that.
Well, and we also, those people that have been on YouTube from the very beginning have seen the transition and change of information and how they are pretty much caging everybody in with the same info.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as vast as it used to be. You know, that they used to call it the dark web.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the whole Diddy stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
Okay. I think like even that in itself is another huge distraction, but it is a good story to follow because it brings an awareness to this network.
Right.
That we weren't aware about as civilians. Unless you were in the industry yourself and you experienced it yourself. Right now, while we have this opportunity to have these conversations with one another, it's good to have an awareness. I have people in my life that are talented musicians and singers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, please,
right.
Please be aware of what you're doing
and
who you're making contracts with, who you're traveling with. You need to always let somebody know where you're at. But this digital stuff is absolutely an interesting experience.
It is. I've learned a lot from it. Some good, some bad. Had some great experiences. Met some cool people. Had some crappy experience and met some of the most evil people I can think of. And I mean, maybe I'm being a bit extreme as evil, you know, because there's evil people in the real world, but they're pretty damn out there though. So I don't mean to be that way.
Well, and there's all sorts of different types of people on here. There are some crazy motherfuckers on this shit.
We're not going to say no names, Snap Who Snaps.
No, like I recently heard somebody absolutely losing their shit because the Cage Reality created a digital person for him, and he changed the voice to the digital person. And this person's like come absolutely unhinged and is doing like some kind of ritual on his ass. Like that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not real, but there are some crazy people out here. And this person flat out said that they were crazy.
And you have to be careful when they say they're crazy like that.
For real. Like, you don't know if people are institutionalized. You don't know if they're in prison.
You don't know if they were just released. You don't know if they escaped. You don't know what their intentions are. You don't know none of that. And this device is meant to, and I wonder, let me say it that way. I wonder if this device in this agenda is this is part of what they want to dull these senses, so people are easier to control. People are easier to It's easier to put a fake person in front of them because, oh well, this is what I feel, this I'm connected, it talks back to me. And that's why
Well,
it's important to have real conversations.
so the internet was originally a government um, thing, right? The military used it
Oh,
first. So we're playing into the hands. They don't need to tap our phones. They don't need to be sitting out in front of our property in a van trying to listen in on our conversations. No, we just click these links.
right.
So it's out in the open. They know what we're thinking about at all times. At all times, people are coming out here playing the game of telephone with each other. So that's why it's really important to have a better discernment about the things that you want to share on here. Because, and then again, things get edited and twisted.
Yes, they do.
So
I see that.
some people are really good at being characters here on YouTube. I haven't quite created a character for myself yet. I'm just Yolanda.
Right. And I think that's where I messed up. I think that's where I messed up. Like, would it be wild if, like, say, Snaps, when he was offline, he was like a perfectly normal person that really had a job, really had a wife and kids? This was just his escape.
Again, you won't ever see me trying to get. I am not a journalist.
Right.
I am not. I'm not trying to whistleblow on anything. I just appreciate that I can come out here and have conversations with people because it's fun. But you won't see me trying to fucking. Because that's when I started to feel like that, like. Once I started to see different sides of these stories that people have created here on these novella panels.
I like the way you say that.
Well, because they are. I mean, I've watched this whole situation with Jack and how much everybody got pulled into all of that. And, it's because he decided to share so much of his life on here. And allowed people to come up and have conversations with them, and it's a good lesson on how much you really want to put out there about yourself.
Absolutely, 100%. I also recognize that this is some of the only human interaction people have, and so that line becomes very, very blurred to them. Like, to some, and I'm not saying anybody in particularly, I'm saying to some, this is their only connection, and this holds a different value. They value it different than, say, someone who had a husband or had kids or had a family or a significant other. They value this app differently.
Well, I mean, these past 5 years, doesn't matter if you believe in Agenda 2030 or Agenda, all these different agendas that the government talks about, World Economic Forum, NATO, whatever, right? We have seen just in my timeline how fast this digital stuff has manifested into what it is right now. Like, you've got a generation of kids that are having social anxiety and confusion due to these and overstimulation of cortisol from giving them a fucking iPad when they're 3 months old, putting an iPhone in front of them, playing Sesame Street.
Right.
Instead of them having humans and blocks and, using their imagination, they're in front of these screens all the time. And during the lockdown, I have a family of teachers as well.
Uh-huh.
And that was the craziest experience, to the point that one of them retired because they were like, no, no way. I was not trained to deal with teaching music to children on a computer. I cannot teach, a group of 40 plus children how to play guitar on a computer screen. And then when I would help out on all these different grades, elementary, junior high, and high school, these kids turned into a different type of children. They were anxious, they were angry, they were isolated, they were detached. And I think that that's a huge aspect to all of this, is how detached people have come with the advent of being able to have these devices in your hands at all times.
So disattached. I mean, they attached to the devices, disattached to reality or human connection, the physical world. I'll call it that.
Yeah, Keith says the physical contact and activity is imperative when it comes to developing the spiritual presence by natural activity. Yeah, I mean, I've seen people in my own life when they've had their babies, who are good mothers and fathers, and what happens to their children when they're not good parents. Their kids end up socially being stunted by their lack of interacting with their children and being on these cell phones. My nephew is 23 years old, and his child absolutely loses her shit if she does not have an iPad with Elmo playing.
That's crazy.
Like, when I've had her, I'm like, let's go outside. I'm going to take her for a walk. I'm going to take her in the backyard. We're going to play with toys. We're going to draw. We're going to color. We're going to use chalk. We're going to do bubbles, right? She can't do it, to the point where she was screaming and crying and vomiting on herself because she just didn't, that was her binky, was the device.
And how old was she?
3 years old.
Wow.
3 years old, but her parents are the same way. They're always scrolling on their phones. When we go out for meals with each other, or we go and hang out or whatever, they're not giving me any type of eye contact. They're on their phones all the time.
Yeah. It took me a long time to really even let us, like, we never had a microwave. I never bought a microwave. We didn't even have, when the TV started going to cable, I didn't even have that because I didn't even want the kids watching TV that much. So I only made sure we had the crappy news channels, basically. But that really affected, that really created their environment, that they speak just like you. They can't stand their kids being on their devices, that they make sure to take them away and lock them and stuff because they don't want their kids to ever be like that.
Well, and it's scary too, because these kids are being, well, I mean, it's no different than books as well. Books did the same thing, newspapers, when you go to shows, all of it is programming at some point. But that whole QAnon movement, for example, people straight lost their minds over whatever was being dropped on those QAnon statements that were being released and stuff. That's when that whole Pizzagate thing started, and you have to be really careful. It creates a type of paranoia and anxiety in a person, and that's when you have to differentiate what's real and what's not. And I think that that's also an experience that I've become aware of on here, is to have a better discernment. Do your research. Keith says that all the time. Do your freaking research, and not just on the internet.
Right.
You
Right.
know, don't just make it the digital stuff, because you can clearly see, look at how much uh, definitions changed during these past 5 years.
How much
Medical
what?
definitions.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like how they were using the Mandela effect.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like straight Mandela effect when I would type in a definition and I would read it and I'm like, that's not what the definition of that word is. And then I would go and take out my old dictionaries, because I collect old dictionaries,
Nice.
encyclopedias, and I would look back and I'm like, this is some wacky shit, man. You know,
Yeah.
how easily they can change things, and why a person would think that there was something like a Mandela effect would be real.
So that's always a huge argument when it comes to the Bible. They change things. And it's interesting that you bring this aspect up of it. Like they're changing words. I'm
Yeah,
thinking
look
the
at
opposite. Oh,
yeah.
what?
Keith says get a thesaurus too. Yeah, I mean, I grew
Yeah.
up with a thesaurus and a dictionary, and
And
I downloaded on my phone. I have which dictionaries? I have the Noah Webster,
oh,
which is um an old one, but and I have all different types of Bibles as well.
oh
I
yeah.
have,
So
yeah,
much.
old KGVs. Um, I have a Masonic one. I have a Catholic one. I have the Greek, Hebrew. Like, that's the time I'm on. You know, I really try to get to the root of the information that I'm researching.
Gotcha.
And
That's
because I think it's good for the brain as well. But you know,
absolutely.
information is just data. You know, and they're just putting it all into this digital thing, and my intuition tells me this digital thing's going to all be zapped out in my timeline anyways. That's just but don't get me started on that.
Okay. My agenda is always to teach humanity, compassion, be a grandmother and teach that aspect of life to my grandkids, of sewing, how to raise plants, how to do stuff, take care of animals, how to nurture things, and to recognize that there is this even no matter what the world, what technology, there is still this that will always be around, and it's important to share it traditionally.
Well, that gentleness that you were talking about earlier, you will start to see it in a different way in yourself as a grandmother.
Oh, for sure. Oh, girl. Now, when it comes to the kiddos, the G girls and the G boys, the gorgeous girls and gorgeous guys, um, it comes out way different, so different. but that's just a different bond. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, if we keep this going, Cynthia, I would love to have conversations about the different stages of life in this
Mm,
life as a woman,
absolutely.
because that's the only perspective I can come from, you know, and we could have men come up as well and give their presentation of it. But, you know, there were times when I was younger that I wish that I had an elder that would talk to me about the things that are hard to talk about.
And I love, and I understand. Like I never realized that is your position. Like, and that is important. And then of course, when you start thinking like, okay, you start reflecting back on your life. What mindset was I in my early teens, my 20s? What things were important to me, and what could I have said to me back then? And so that was interesting that you say that, because I recently just within 48 hours I had the most beautiful granddaughter, and via cesarean, and she's already home. I can't believe how quick they move it now, but that's how quick they're moving it. And it just makes me want to it just puts me in a different state of mind. It brought about a different joy. I mean, I do have other grandchildren as well. This one's only going to be 10 minutes up the road versus 3 hours away. So I'm excited. And I, part of me wants to vlog that experience, just, you know, just to remind everybody what that new life is like, and, you know, what these kids are like in this world, especially with the technology. But then other times I'm like, I wouldn't share something that I love so much with such a wicked place. You know, it's really, it's a wild spot to be in. But I would definitely love to tell you stories about it, though, for sure.
Well,
The beautiful age.
this digital stuff is almost like its own realm altogether. When they have this, I haven't seen it yet, but there's that Black Mirror. I have been hearing that being spoken about a lot throughout YouTube. And these Black Mirror devices, you and I had this conversation, right? Like, be careful on what you manifest in this.
Oh, sure.
You know, and what could potentially follow you through into your real life, even though the digital, you know, you can turn this shit on and off, but you can't turn your mind off. You know, that's going 24/7.
Yeah, for sure. Black Mirror is a show, right, on Netflix, right?
I think so, but the idea, even the concept of Black Mirror, regardless if these old paintings that they've shown that I want to say would be considered the Renaissance era.
Uh-huh.
And this makes you question everything, because you really want to know how much of these paintings and such could potentially be AI and that they're not real. But if they are real, they've been showing that there's been these Black Mirror devices since the Renaissance time.
What is the Black Mirror device?
To me, it's showing me that this technology is something that isn't new.
Uh-huh.
So the one I'm thinking of in my mind right now is showing these, like a family that's an elite family looking into a mirror of somebody that's in a different kingdom.
Right.
And talking to them. So, you know, you've got the stories of people that looked into the waters and could see the future, or they could see what was going on. Like, my whole point about it is just be careful what you manifest in your Black Mirror.
So, not connected to the show or anything, but because I'm a thrifter, I'm such a little thrifter. Like, I'm great at it. And I find great things, and I can even find great things that I know don't take that home with you. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, girl, I know what you mean.
Don't take that home with you. Put that, you know, and so, and it's so funny. But one of my huge things is I won't get a mirror. I need a new mirror. You know, I don't want mirrors. And the other day I was out, and there was a beautiful mirror, and this guy was looking at it, and he was like, I was like, that's a beautiful mirror, but I never take them home because I never know what's inside of them. And he looked at me, he said, I've never even thought that thought in my life, and picked up the mirror and walked off with it. And I thought, what a bitch. Why would I say that to that guy? You know what I mean? But it just came
because we're we're superstitious.
Right. Well, it was the weirdest thing. I was like, never tell anybody that again, ever in your life at a thrift store. That's a no-no from now on. But it was a true statement, though.
I know. I mean, if you talk about jewelry as an example, you know, it's got, if it's a really fine piece of jewelry, depending on what metal it is, what stones are in it, what crystals, what gems.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've even learned that I think a lot of the ancestors, the whole reason why they even wore that stuff is because of how much they were aware of energetically what it would do to your temple as an antenna, right? Energetically. It makes sense to me now why they would create a gold crown to put on your head with rubies and diamonds and emeralds and shit on it, because it energetically does something for the body. I just kind of went a little bit on a side note there. Just be aware of the things that you might want to get in terms of an antique. You never
Right.
know.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. But that also energy, I mean, as much we understand but that energy can also be transferred on this devices as well, not just this app, but devices.
Well, I think you and I have done a really good job with each other tonight and have
Me
wrote
too.
down some good notes on some further topics that we could talk about.
For sure. And I also made some other notes, so drop me backstage as you ended out. And I appreciate everyone who stopped by Yolanda's side. I appreciate everyone who stopped by my side. No matter what side you're on, please take your time to hit that like button. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the show, what you would like to hear us talk about, or what are some things going on in your mind that you would be interested to hear our opinions. This is an open panel. You're more than welcome to come up at any time and discuss things with us. I appreciate you, Yolanda. I think it was a great conversation. And I look forward to many more with you.
I appreciate it, Cynthia. It's fun. It's always fun talking with you.
They put me backstage.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we will keep this all going. And like Cynthia said, please feel free to write some ideas for future topics in her comment section, and we'll break it down. And on that note, everybody, take care, and I'll see you around. I'll go ahead and play a song for you guys.
Woke up, sun shining through my window pane, feeling like a story with a happy ending name. Golden hour follows me wherever I go. Every step I take, yeah, the world says hello. Got a heart so full, it's like a melody playing. Every little thing just goes my way, and maybe it's fate or a dream come true, but luck's got a way of sticking like glue. Nah, it just finds me like a wave riding high on the right seat. Pocket full of dreams, yeah, I cash them in. Life's a jackpot, I just spin and spin. Got my people, got my peace, got my rhythm too. Dancing